sisters pray with their heads covered. We face the east towards Jerusalem.
Heavenly Father Yahweh, most holy and true, coming Elohim, Abraham, Yishak, Yaakov. Give you all thanks in Yeshua's mighty name, Father, because you are mindful of us, Father Yahweh. And we give you thanks, Father Yahweh, because we know, Father Yahweh, we are unworthy, Father Yahweh. So we ask, Father Yahweh, in Yeshua's mighty name, Father, forgive for the sins of our hearts, our minds, and deeds, anything that's unpleasant unto you, Father Yahweh, that does not please you, Father Yahweh. Have mercy upon us, Father. We know, Father, we in the flesh. We know, Father Yahweh, we sin, Father. We know, Father Yahweh, that we want to please you, Father Yahweh, and want to be obedient to you, Father Yahweh. But we wasn't brought up in this, Father Yahweh, and we trying, Father, to put the old man away, Father Yahweh, to put on a new man, Father Yahweh, to follow you, Father Yahweh, and do your mighty will. So we ask your mercy upon us, Father Yahweh. We pray, Father Yahweh, that the words spoken here, Father Yahweh, are your true words, Father Yahweh, that you will be with us, Father Yahweh, and speak your word to us, Father Yahweh, so we can understand, Father Yahweh, and learn, Father Yahweh, and do your mighty will, Father Yahweh. So we put that old man away. Give thanks and praise, Father Yahweh, for being so mindful, for allowing us to teach your word, Father Yahweh. We ask your word, Father, go through the four corners of the world, Father, and touch the hearts of so many, Father Yahweh, that they don't even know you, Father Yahweh, but they will turn from the evil ways, Father Yahweh, and follow you, Father Yahweh. Give you thanks and praise in Yeshua's holy and mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Yes, baby. Yeah.
All right, Shabbat Shalom. My name is Yedan Yasharal, my brother Yonatan Yasharal. Shabbat Shalom. And the title of today's Shabbat study is Spiritual Manipulation. Spiritual Manipulation. And we're going to get into some of the Sefer writings today. So if you have access to some of the Sefer writings, we're going to get into that. Enoch. One thing we have to understand is that manipulation is MANIPULATION. Manipulation. And we have to realize that we're here in the flesh, but we're surrounded by spirits, and it is a spiritual world. And we are being manipulated, and other people are being manipulated in the world, especially people in high places. And we want to be cognizant of that, and we want to understand how to ensure that we don't have the wrong spirits manipulating us and controlling us or leading us astray. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to see what the scriptures has to say about that, and also see why Yah made certain laws barring us from dealing with certain practices of manipulating spirits for our own so-called gain, because at the end of the day, we only understand what we're allowed to understand, and you don't want to deal with things that you don't quite understand, thinking that you're going to manipulate it for your own good when it could cause a lot more harm. We need to trust the commandments and trust the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of truth, to guide us. So we're going to open up first in the law. We're going to go to Deuteronomy chapter 18. Deuteronomy chapter 18, and we're going to read verses 9 through 15. Because, when you go back to the garden, the serpent allowed his vessel to be used by the adversary, the devil, and he was punished for it. At the end of the day, when the devil finished using you, he's a spirit. He's not a flesh being, like a human being or something like that. So when he's finished using you, just like Yehudas Iscariot, once he was finished being used, he's left to himself. And then the vessel that allows that evil spirit to use him is going to be left with the consequences. Now, those evil spirits themselves are going to have to deal with their own judgment in their own time. But when we authorize these spirits to use Yah's vessel, use his temple for wickedness, then we get punished for it. So Deuteronomy chapter 18, and we're going to start this at verse 9, and we're just going to read through verse 15.
When you are you there already, Mama?
As Deuteronomy?
Chapter 18.
Mm-hmm. And Shabbat Shalom, Brother Melvin Shelley. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Tanya and Brother Isaiah. Shabbat Shalom, Sister Ariel Smith. Good to see you, family. All right. And the title of today's Shabbat study is Spiritual Manipulation. And we're opening up in Deuteronomy chapter 18, and we're going to read verses 9 through 15. And we're going to look at some of these laws pertaining to dealing with these spirits.
When you are come into the land which Yahweh your Elohim gives you, you shall not learn to do after the abomination of those nations. There shall not be found among you anyone that makes his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of time, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahweh, and because of these abominations, Yahweh your Elohim does drive them out from before you.
All right, so he told us specifically, do not learn the way of these heathens. Do the abominations that these other nations do. These are things that the other nations did because they weren't, Yah didn't show himself to them. And we're going to actually get into some of the Sefer writings that are going to explain why we shouldn't do what these other nations do, because these other nations were subject to different things that we weren't given. So he's telling you point blank, these are the things that these other nations do. We are not supposed to do those things. They are supposed to follow after the things we do, which are the things of righteousness. So let's look at what they're talking about here. So if we look at what they said here, a charmer is H2267. H2267, and people would say, oh, he's a charmer. They'll say little comments like that. That's supposed to be, a compliment. But what they're talking about here, H2267, which is Heber or Heber, spelled Cheber, Heber, and that's from H2266. A society, also a spell. Charming, company, enchantment, wide. So when they say a charmer to somebody, they're giving you, he's basically implying that he's putting a spell on you. He's putting a spell with his charm, with the way that he talks, with the way that he says. So, but in this It's talking about casting spells, those that are casting spells on people and chanting certain things. And this is what they do a lot of times in these Catholic churches, where they start chanting these things in these languages that we don't even understand. And you hear the Catholic priest saying something in Latin, and you might catch one word, Lucifer. Whoa, 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 what does that have to do with anything that we should be saying in church? So they're chanting these things, and they call them so-called prayers, but they're chanting something that we don't fully understand. So you definitely don't want to agree or chant on anything that you don't understand. And Shabbat Shalom, Sister Terry. And the next one that we're going to talk about here is familiar spirits. Familiar spirits. And that's H178. H178, and that's Obi. Like almost like Star Wars. Obi-Wan Kenobi. And you remember him? He was like the invisible guy, that was dead. And he's talking beyond the grave. So they know what they're doing when they're picking out Star Wars. Got a lot of, the Jedi. You got the Force versus the Spirit. They know what they're doing. So here, Obi, H178, or OB, or OBE, is from the same as H1. Apparently through the idea of a prating a father's name, properly a mumble, that is a water skin from its hollow sound, hence a necromancer, ventriloquist, bottle familiar spirit. So this is that person that, like they got in the movies where they're channeling some dead person and they're talking through them. And you're like, oh, there's no way that this person could have known this because they're doing this or they're doing that. Well, notice that it says ventriloquist. A ventriloquist, they hold a little fake doll in their lap and they talking out the side of their mouth. That's what this is referring to. And it's talking about familiar spirits. Then you have wizards, which you see Harry Potter and all that stuff that they're talking about. Wizards is Yidoni or Yidioni, which is H3049. Yidioni, spelled Yiddeoniy. Yidioni. And that's from H3045, probably a knowing one, specifically a conjurer, by implication a ghost wizard. And then they had, the last one was a necromancer. A necromancer. That is a Darash, which is H1875. And that's Darash spelled Darash. A primitive root, properly to tread or frequent, usually to follow for pursuit or search, by implication to seek or ask, specifically to worship, ask at all, care for, diligently inquire, make inquisition, question, require, search for, seek out, or suli. A necromancer. So this is somebody that's trying to seek after the dead. And then there was a second part to that, a muth, which is H4191. A muth, with this a primitive root to die. So when the necromancer was a combination of two words, somebody that's seeking out muth, which is H4191, which is the dead. A primitive root to die. Causively to kill, crying, dead body, dead man, death, destroyer, die, kill, must needs slay suddenly. So those that are seeking after spirits of the dead. All right, and I think, did we read that about a witch?
Yeah.
And the witch.
We read familiar spirit, wizard, necromancer. We stopped at verse 12.
Okay, go ahead, brother.
Verse 13.
No, we didn't get to there yet.
Verse 13. You shall be perfect with Yahweh your Elohim. For these nations which you shall possess, hearken unto observers of times, and unto diviners. But as for you, Yahweh your Elohim has not suffered you so to do. Yahweh your Elohim will raise up unto you a prophet from the midst of you, of your brethren, like unto me, unto him shall you hearken.
So he's telling us specifically, don't do what these nations do. These nations don't have nobody from Yahweh specifically talking on the authorization of Yahweh, giving you nothing but good information. These people are seeking angels and not knowing, thinking that they're seeking the ancestor or the dead person or whatever. They think that that's who they're talking to, but they're talking to evil spirits. They're talking to evil angels that are leading them away from Yahweh. And we were told not to do that. You are not so. We have prophets. And he said, I'm going to raise up a prophet like unto Moshe, which is Yahshua. I'm going to raise up Yahshua, who is going to be like unto Moshe, who speaks directly from the word of the Most High. And then we had also other prophets that we had that spoke direct words from the Most High. That way we heard the right thing and weren't being manipulated by evil spirits that are leading us away from Yah. And he warned us specifically because those other nations were given other spirits to lead them away from Yah. And we're going to validate that. And I just want to read one thing from Exodus chapter 22. Read that real quick. Exodus 22 and verse 18. And this is about the witch.
Exodus, Shemot 22, verse 18. You shall not suffer a witch to live.
All right. You're supposed to kill those people according to the Old Testament law when we were in the time of judgment. We are not in the time of judgment now. We are in the grace period. But it says kashaf, H3784. Kashaf is the word for witch. And that is a primitive root properly to whisper a spell. That is enchant or practice magic, sorcerer, sorcery, use, witchcraft, which goes back into those enchanting, adding spells, things of that nature, channeling any other spirit other than direct prophets of the Most High. Direct word from the Most High. And we have a whole book full of prophecies of words directly from the Most High. We don't need to go after and seek any other spirit like Yahweh left something out. We know, we just read this in Bible study in Revelation 22. Do not add unto the word or remove unto the word. In other words, you are given enough. You don't need to do that. You have enough instructions on what you need to do. You don't need to seek thinking that you were going to seek some kind of dead ancestor, because this is what the other nations did. This is what the Hamites did. And all those Canaanites and all those nations around, they sought after these things, thinking that they dealing with their relative, but they dealing with evil spirits. You have something, Elder?
Yeah, I guess it's a good time. When Saul made his mistake, and by his own mistake, he also put a judgment on his son Jonathan also. When he went, for one, he did what Yahweh said, which is to get all diviners and witches and so forth, all the people who worship the devil out of the city, out of the get out, or you shall pay the penalty of death. And so later on, he decides to go inquire of a witch to get information about Samuel, who had already passed away at that time.
Right, we're going to read that.
Oh, you're going to go to that?
Yeah, that's 1 Samuel. We're going to read that. All right, so now we're going to go into Jubilees. And we're going to see why Yahweh warned us specifically. The ancients knew this, why they were not supposed to be dealing with all those type of spirits. We're going to go to Jubilees, Yobelum, chapter 15. And if you do not have access to the Sefer writings, you can always go to IsraeliteGathering.com under books and Bibles, and you can get free access, and some of them you can even download to all these books so that you can see and study for yourself these things. Because we got to understand, we have this Bible here, this King James, it's Biblios. That's what it was originally from, Biblios. This was compiled. This is not what the ancients had. This was compiled from somewhere. Where did they get this? They got this information from somewhere. These ancient writings are the preface to these books that we have that came together, where Torah was put together, where some of the prophets got their information, were speaking of. They weren't all speaking just on the first 5 books. They were speaking from other writings, especially in the New Testament, time when we didn't even have a New Testament. They were speaking of other writings that are not in this book, that are not in the King James Bible. So Jubilees, Yobelum, chapter 15. And we're going to read verses 37. Hold on a second. We're going to read from verse 27. Yobelum, Jubilees, and we're going to read this from verse 27 through 34. You can see that?
Mm-hmm. 15, or 34? Yes, you.
For all the Malachim of the presence and all the Malachim of sanctification have been so created from the day of their creation. And before the Malachim of the presence and the Malachim of sanctification, he has sanctified Yasharal, that they should be with him and with his Kodesh Malachim.
So Malachim are angels. A Malach is an angel. Malachim, anytime you have im at the end of a word in Hebrew, that means it's plural. So the angels of presence and his Kodesh angels, his holy angels. Go ahead.
And do you command the children of Yasharal, let them observe the sign of this covenant for their generations as an eternal ordinance, and they will not be rooted out of the land.
Now, this covenant that they're speaking about, if you go back and read the beginning of the chapter, is talking about circumcision.
For the command is ordained for a covenant, that they should observe it forever among all the children of Yasharal. For Ishmael and his sons and his brothers Esau, Yahweh did not cause to approach him, and he chose them not because they are the children of Abraham, but because he knew them, but he chose Yasharal to be his people. And he sanctified it and gathered it from amongst all the children of men, for there are many nations and many peoples, and all are his, and over all has he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him.
All right. So he sanctified and gathered Yasharal, separate from everybody else. Because over all these other nations, he placed spirits in authority to lead them astray from him. If you want to call somebody closer unto you, you call somebody closer to you, and he's trying to separate us from them so that he can work on us, work on the firstborn. So if these people in their heart already have it in their heart to want to follow after these evil angels for whatever power and extra advantage that they want. Okay, that's what you want to be used for. That's fine. He said he knows all these people. So there was obviously something in these people that made them susceptible to that. So he said, fine, I'm going to put evil angels over all these people, which are spirits, to lead them astray from him.
Yeah, I have a question regarding this as far as it concerns Gentiles. They have these spirits over them. How would they be able to, I guess, come into the fold? You know?
That's a good question. All right. If you have a certain way of doing things, just the same way we had those same evil spirits that were supposed to lead the other nations astray. We turned around and followed the other nations and followed the same angels that had them doing all kind of foolishness, eating blood and, doing all these pagan worship practices and, scarring our bodies up and doing all kind of stuff. We followed that until we were called out of that. He has called our nation out of that, but he's also called a remnant of the nations as well, of all the nations, a remnant of people that are going to be called away from that and choose to follow the spirit of righteousness, the Holy Spirit. Now, that ain't everybody. Just like it ain't all Israel going to follow that spirit. Some Israel wants to follow, want to be natural Israel, want to follow the other nations. So the whole point of that was to separate us first. allow us to learn righteousness. And then he would call out those of the other nations, and they would follow righteousness from the example that Yasharal gave. But instead, Yasharal turned around and followed these other nations, which are being led by other spirits that are leading them astray from Yahweh. Go ahead, Elder.
Also, we can also look in scripture and see, you know, that even Cephas, when he had that dream to sit down and eat all those unclean foods on top of his roof, it wasn't about the food. He knew, he said, I never ate this, you know, in my life. And he knows if he eats that, he cannot come before the Father. He makes himself an abomination and clean. So he realized when Yahweh was teaching him this, that it wasn't about the food. He was trying to give him an understanding of uncleanliness. And so the reason he did that to him is because there was what they used to call dogs, the heathens, the unclean, was coming to his door. And there were Gentiles going. So when they got to his door, he got understanding that Yahweh had given them the spirit to do his will, but it had to have order and decency. So he had to learn that Yahweh chose a few on the going to go and teach the going.
Right.
You know, so this is to help answer that question too. Yahweh chose us as he saw it right here when he led other nations astray. And that's also in Deuteronomy chapter 4. We're going to look into that too. He led other nations astray so he can teach his government, his children, his ways. So they can go and teach their brothers and sisters Yahweh's ways to set up his righteous government.
Right.
So some of the Goyim are being woken up to learn their place and to follow the chosen children of Yahweh. Okay?
Right.
The same as Yahweh's children are being woken up to follow him. There's only going to be a remnant of his children that will follow him and do his mighty will. So this is Yahweh's doing.
Right, right. At the end of the day, how are you going to know if somebody's going to follow you if everybody is following? So everybody's going that direction. So you don't know if this person is truly following you or are they following everybody else. So he has the majority of the nations because we are the minority, because the rest of the nations are the nations and we are the sanctified. We're the one nation that's separated from all the other nations. So if everybody is doing something, just like right now, everybody keeping Christmas, everybody doing Halloween, everybody partying on Saturday, everybody doing all that stuff, how are you going to know the people that are going to truly follow you? Now, if everybody was keeping the Sabbath and everybody was keeping the holy days, then them same people that are doing Christmas and doing all the other stuff would just be doing the holy days. So you wouldn't know who's really doing what. So it's the same principle. Right now, Yahweh didn't choose everybody. It says many are called, few are chosen. And that's just not just Israel. That's of the Gentiles too. That's the other nations. Many of them are called because guess what? Many of them are hearing the truth from us now. But few are chosen to receive that Holy Spirit and receive that desire within themselves to walk that narrow path. Go ahead, Elder.
And just to add to that, you know, he was reflecting on Deuteronomy, I think it was 18, and dealing with those verses about divination and basic people pass their children to fire, witchcraft, all those type of things, you know. It also expounds on that in unity in your belly about, you know, how angels are teaching them stuff they wasn't supposed to know. Teaching them, you know, how to make swords.
We're going to get into that. That's in Enoch.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that also expounds on what just similar information that was given about regular history. It's only in the 16th century, in the 15th century, when you had wizards that were next to the queens.
Right.
You know, and
or even Egypt. In Egypt.
You're right. How you say becoming necromancers and also wizards to find information about what the queen needs to do next.
Right.
You know, how is she going to be powerful? So they look to that person there, and they tell you that they were drawing symbols of Satan on the floor.
Right.
You understand? They're worshiping. They had to go through certain processes because this demon would speak to them if only they follow a certain ritual.
Right.
To invoke them.
Right.
You know, so our people was not supposed to do that.
Right.
So I guess they're looking to receive power, you know, and be endowed with the Most High. You understand? Because they realized they was pushed away from the Most High.
Right. Right. It's like Janus and Jambres. You know, they turned around and they turned the staff into a snake too. But guess what? Moshe snake ate they snake up. Mm-hmm. All right, and Shabbat Shalom, brother Yehuda Yisrael.
Yes.
All right.
You were at verse 32.
All right, so we're at Book of Jubilees, chapter 15, and we're at verse 32.
But over Yasharal he did not appoint any malach or spirit, for he alone is their ruler, and he will preserve them and require them at the hand of his malachim and his spirits, and at the hand of all his powers, in order that he may preserve them and bless them, and that they may be his, and he may be theirs from henceforth forever.
So over Yasharal, he did not appoint any angel or spirit, for he alone is their ruler, and he will preserve them. So if over Yasharal, Yahweh is our only ruler, how does he rule us? With what? With his word, his instruction. And Yahshua is the word in flesh. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 33. And now I announce unto you that the children of Yasharal will not keep true to this ordinance, and they will not circumcise their sons according to all this Torah. For in the flesh of their circumcision they will omit this circumcision of their sons, and all of them, sons of Belial, will leave their sons uncircumcised as they were born. And there will be great wrath from Yahweh against the children of Yasharal, because they have forsaken his covenant and turned aside from his word and provoked and blasphemed, inasmuch as they do not observe the ordinance of this Torah. For they have treated their members like the Gentiles, so that they may be removed and rooted out of the land. And there will no more be pardon or forgiveness unto them, so that there should be forgiveness and pardon for all the sin of this eternal error.
All right. So in Jubilees, it shows you specifically that these spirits or these angels were there to lead these other nations astray. So now we have a better understanding of why we are not supposed to do after these other nations. Now you couple that with what we just read in Torah. He said, listen, don't be with the charmers, the familiar spirits, the wizards, the necromancers, and then in Exodus 22, the witches. All this is what these other nations do. These are what these evil angels have them doing. Okay. All right, so we're going to go to Enoch chapter 8, the book of Enoch chapter 8. Here you go, brother. All right, so we're going to book of Enoch, and we're going to go into what the elder was talking about, what these angels taught the nations. And some of these things, it could be used for good. It's not necessarily all these things are to be used for bad. But if Yahweh said, you know, this is not the information that they need to know right now, or this information is too powerful for these people, it's a problem. So if we go to Book of Enoch, the book of Enoch, and we're going to go to chapter 8.
And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art working of them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony.
And antimony is a metal that's found in the earth, an element that can be ground into a powder that they use to put dark eyeshadow on their eyes. And that's what the Egyptians used. That's where you see the Egyptian, they have that liner around their eyes or whatever. And when you look at the property of that, it causes all kind of problems in the brains and deformity and you know, because you're not supposed to be putting a lot of these metals.
Toxic.
Yeah, exactly. Toxic into your skin, and ingestion will give you all kind of weird issues. Go ahead.
And the use of antimony and the beautifying of the eyelids and all kinds of costly stones and all coloring tinctures.
So that eyeshadow and all that stuff that they're putting on their face, you know, we're still not understanding the full effects of putting these metals, these ground up metals onto your skin. Now we know that when you have metals in your body, in your blood, and in your system, it weakens your immune system. Go ahead.
And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Semyaza taught enchantment and root cuttings. Armoros, the resolving of enchantments. Barakal taught astrology. Kokabel, the constellations. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Arikel, the signs of the earth. Shamsiel, the signs of the sun. Sariel, the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven.
So the results of all this knowledge and wisdom that was in the earth, now maybe an average man might have got this information and been able to do some good with it. But now when the evil people in the earth are now receiving this kind of information, they're now creating weapons and all kind of things to oppress man and to exalt themselves over other people. And it caused a problem in the earth to the point where men were dying, and the cry is going up to heaven now because this information that was prematurely given unto the children of Yasharah. Now, a lot of people will reject Enoch despite, you know, finding it in the Dead Sea Scrolls. You can see these are ancient writings that predate the Bible. They'll reject that, but you can find proof of a lot of these same things that there is evil angels over these other nations right here from the prophets in our book. So we're going to go to Daniel chapter 10, and we're going to see an example of how these angels are manipulating people, not only people, but nations of people, putting nation versus nation, that there are evil angels that are putting this thing, and evil angels that are actually standing in the way, trying to stop good messengers of the Most High, good angels, from doing good for good people. Daniel. Mama, we're going to Daniel chapter 10. We're going to chapter 10, and we're going to read 1 through 14. So a lot of this information goes back to where, you know, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You know, there was the knowledge to do good, and there was the knowledge to do evil. But all you really needed was the knowledge of obedience. So it's not that, you know, this nuclear power that we have can also power homes and do all kind of good things. But then evil man took that and designed bombs that they can blow up millions of people from a distance without even having to look a man in his eye. So we didn't need to have this knowledge of these certain things. But man likes to think that, you know, I want more than what the Most High gave me. So I want to go seek after these other spirits to get this information. And a lot of men will do that, or people will do that so they can have power over other individuals and be raised up above their brethren. And you saw the results of that. And now we're going to see an example of how these evil angels are manipulating these nations. And it's also prophecy that's being given here on which nations are going to be ruling the earth.
Daniel chapter 10 and verse 1. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, the king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar. And the thing was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the thing and had understanding of the vision.
All right, so we know that Daniel was a captive in Babylon. And you see, this showing you what the heathen does. His name is Daniel, which is, Dan is what? Strength of all, or something like that. What does Dan mean again?
I think
Judge, you know, Yah shall judge, or something like that. So this is giving glory unto all, giving glory unto the Most High. And then, yet, there whose name was called Belteshazzar. Who's calling him Belteshazzar?
Who's captains?
Belteshazzar is a name that's glorifying their pagan god. What does that mean again? Belteshazzar?
Oh, I didn't know.
Daniel chapter 10.
Age 1095.
And Belteshazzar means Baal Tesh Atzar. It's like the God is the power, or something like, you know, the Baal is something. So one of these study notes, I missed it. Either way, it's glorifying their pagan god, is what that name means. So they're showing you what the heathen does.
Belshazzar.
Means what?
Bel protect the king. So that's basically like.
Yeah. Lord protect the king is basically what they're saying. The Baal, the pagan god, protect the king. That's what they're calling Daniel. So they're showing you what the heathen does. When they have you in captivity, they're trying to strip away your name, your Yasharal name, and give you the name that glorifies their God. That's how they took Yahshua, and the name Joshua is not in the New Testament, because they want to glorify their principal god, Zeus.
Verse 2. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth. Neither did I anoint myself at all, till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. And in the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel, then I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude.
So obviously this is not a regular human being. And you see what his color was. It's not like what they're going to put in these movies. The polished brass. Go ahead.
And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. For the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves.
All right, so that lets you know, when something spiritual happens, a spiritual person may see something one way, and the rest of the world is not going to see it. They're just going to see the effects of it. Go ahead.
Therefore I was left alone, and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me, for my comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength. Yet heard I the voice of his words, and when I heard the voice of his words, then was I in a deep sleep on my face, and my face toward the ground. And behold, a hand touched me, which set me upon my knees and upon the palms of my hands. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto you, and stand upright, for unto you am I now sent. And when he had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you did set your heart to understand and to chasten yourself before your Elohim, your words were heard, and I am come for your words.
So from the first day, he's been doing this for 3+ weeks. He's been chastening himself, and he's been fasting and praying for this important matter, because his nation is being oppressed in Babylon. We're in captivity, just like we're now in this country. were being captive. He was being captive in a nation that's not his. So he's being captive and he's praying for the plight of his nation. And the Most High heard him from the first day. From the first day. But yet it took 3+ weeks. And we got to understand, and this is a righteous man. So imagine, us with the mistakes that we make and the transgressions we make. But we expect that when we make a prayer that all of a sudden we're going to snap our fingers and the Most High just going to show up. A lot of times he's going to hold back in certain circumstances just to see if you truly believe. But in this situation, there's a reason why. And we're going to see the reason why it took so long for Yahweh's angel to come answer his prayer. Go ahead. Start from verse 12 again and read that again.
Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that you did set your heart to understand and to chasten yourself before your Elohim, your words were heard, and I am come for your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia.
All right. So when it's talking about the prince of the kingdom of Persia, the prince, when they say prince in Hebrew, that's mean like the ruler, the mighty one. The angel is what they're talking about here. It's not the actual prince of the kingdom. Can't no earthly man sit here and hold back an angel from doing his job. I don't think anybody believes that. And we see that this is not a regular man here. This is a man that got the color of beryl with polished brass. This is not with eyes like lightning and multiple thunderings. Ain't no regular man going to do that. Ain't nobody in Persia got that kind of power to do that. Go ahead.
Verse 14, Now I am come to make you understand what shall befall your people in the latter days. For yet the vision is for many days. And when he had spoken such words unto me, I set my face toward the ground, and I became dumb. And behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips. And I opened my mouth and spoke, and said unto him that stood before me, O my sovereign, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me, and I have retained no strength. For how can the servant of my sovereign talk with this my sovereign? For as for me, straightway there remained no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me. Then there came again and touched me one like the appearance of a man, and he strengthened me.
Like the appearance. This is not a man. This is somebody, he's taking the appearance. An angel is a spirit. So it's changing its image into something that won't completely cause a man to just deteriorate from seeing that. Something he can be more familiar with. So that's why he's coming in the appearance of a man. This is the same reason that Yahshua, the spirit Yasharal, came into Yahshua in the presence of a man and didn't show up like the bird with many wings and all this stuff to be worshipped. Go ahead.
Didn't 17, the words sound like what that weed said?
Mm-hmm.
Spoke to my Lord.
My master.
My master spoke to my master, but my Lord. So it tells you that, Yahshua never seen too.
Yeah, there's more people. That's a good point. For how can the servant of this my master talk with this my master? Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Verse 19, and I said, O man, greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto you. Be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened and said, Let my master speak, for you have strengthened me. Then said he, Know you why I come unto you? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come.
All right, so he's been giving prophecy. He's letting you know, I'm fighting with the evil angel that's over the prince of Persia. I mean, that's over the Persian rule, because this is who's ruling right now, the Persians. Then he's giving him prophecy saying, who's coming next? After this, Persian Empire is dominated. The Greeks are now going to be coming, because the Greeks are going to have an evil angel over them that are going to lead them to now rule according to these prophecies. So you see right here, this is Daniel chapter 10. This is when in Babylon, the Greeks weren't in the scene yet ruling the world. So he's giving prophecy and he's telling Yahweh's servant the order of things of what is to come. Read that last verse.
But I will show you that which is noted in the scripture of truth, and there is none that holds with me in these things but Mikael, your prince.
Okay, now we know Mikael is not talking about some man named Mikael.
Nope.
This is talking about the angel Mikael that had to help another angel fight the prince of Persia. So he's calling Mikael your prince. Mikael is your angel that is helping you, that is guiding you, that's leading you in the way. Behold, I send an angel before you to lead you in the way. Obey his voice and forsake him not, because he will not pardon your iniquity. It's talking about an angel here.
Yeah, like unto Elohim.
Right. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 6, and we're going to see this broken down in the New Testament a little bit more understanding to clarify this is what you up against. It's not always about the man or the person in front of you that you're dealing with. They're just a vessel. Just like us, just like me, just like Jonathan, just like the elder, just like everybody. Everybody is just a vessel. And it's to determine what manner of spirit are you going to allow into that vessel.
Well, can I add one thing to that?
Go ahead, brother.
I just want to add, they got notes and they also state, that the temptation is clear that the holy angels are sent forth on behalf of the heirs of salvation.
Mm-hmm.
For demons are concerned on behalf of the world system of house of time. So what they, going to tell you is that, Daniel was a servant under the Most High. His heart was the Most High. It said how his heart was the Most High. So when he had issues and his prayer was supposed to go up to the Father, his prayers was somewhat being hindered because there was a war up there. So Mikael had to come so he could break a hole through that chaos. So his prayers could be answered. And why he fought so hard?
Right.
Because he was upright with Yah. So Mikael came to fight for the servant of the Most High. Because that's who Mikael is there. He's there to protect the children of Yasharah, to fight for the children of Yasharah. The ones who have salvation will, like I said, walking to attain salvation because they wish to obey the Most High.
Right, right. So we're going to Ephesians chapter 6. We're going to read the verses 10 through 24. Shabbat shalom, brother Samuel Salas. Shabbat shalom. So now we're seeing the instructions where we're being warned about what we're up against spiritually. That it's not always the carnal man that's in front of you that you're dealing with. Chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6. We got to understand what we're up against. The last thing you can do, worst thing you can do is think that, somebody is talking, about they want to whoop your behind outside. And you hear it's some 6-year-old child. And you a grown man. So you like, what? Some 6-year-old child trying to beat up on me. So you go out there to see, let me check this little child. And you go out there and you go outside, it's Mike Tyson and his 6-year-old child. Whoa, I wasn't expecting that. You going out there thinking that everything is all good and you're just not prepared for the battle. Well, imagine if you can't see Mike Tyson. You go out there and all you see is this 6-year-old child. You're like, child, if you don't go home to your mother and all of a sudden you get knocked out. Everybody got a plan until what?
Until they get hit.
Till they get hit in the face. That's what Mike Tyson said. Everybody got a plan till they get hit in the face.
Yep.
So understand what you're going up against. You're going against spiritual Mike Tysons. You're going against spiritual people. And I know that's probably beyond some people's generation. Some of the younger people, Mike Tyson was the giant in my time.
Knockout master.
Ephesians chapter 6, we're going to read the verses 10 through 24.
Finally, my brethren, be strong in the master and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of darkness in this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
All right, so we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, those princes, against spiritual wickedness in high places, places you can't get to, places you can't go to. You don't have access to them places. That's who we're fighting against. So while we sitting here picking on this person right here, this guy right here is the problem because he's doing this or he's doing that. That angel will pick up and leave. That evil spirit will go jump into somebody else or jump into you, and now you the problem. And you wonder why everybody's trying to kill you. And the only way we can recognize this is to put on this whole armor of Elohim. It's to make sure that we're staying rooted in this word. It doesn't mean that we can't be used and manipulated, but when you realize that you're being used to do unrighteousness, you got to snap out of that. And you got to repent, and you got to acknowledge, you got to humble yourself and acknowledge and say, hey, look, something ain't right here. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This is not giving glory unto the Most High. Something else is going on here.
Basically telling you, cast off the works of darkness.
Right.
You know, and then put on the armor of light.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because how you gonna put on armor of light when your mind is deep in darkness?
Right. How else can you fight? If you in a pitch black room, how do you fight that dark?
Yeah. Turn on the light.
Turn on the light. That's the only way you can be like, you know what? It's dark in here. Ooh, let me put some more darkness in here.
Right.
That'll teach them.
Put on the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places.
All right, so it's saying put on the whole armor of Elohim. So what's the whole armor of Elohim? Go ahead.
Verse 13. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of Elohim, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the good news of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith you shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim.
All right, so all these things are spiritual things. You can't go into a store and go buy this. You can't. It don't say nothing here and take you the AR-15, or take you a shotgun, you know, a semi-automatic shot. You know, those are what you kill flesh and blood with. But you're not going to kill an evil spirit with that. You're not going to kill a spirit that wants you to put your children in the fire and put vaccines in them, or a spirit that wants you to go eat a steak with blood in it, putting all manner of disease in you. You're not going to fight that with a gun. You're not going to fight that with a sword. Not to say that you might not have to fight somebody to protect your house or protect your own life, but also understand that when you're fighting against that, that's the flesh aspect of it. What about that spirit? Once you kill that flesh that try to do that, what happened to that spirit that moved that person to do that? The only way to protect yourself from that is to put on this armor of Elohim that it's telling you to do. Go ahead, verse 18.
You know what they said?
Go ahead, brother.
I just want to add, you know, we just stopped at verse 17, you know, just now it says, take the helmet of salvation, the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Elohim. You know, people don't realize that sword cuts both ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we're trying to learn how to fight the enemy, you know, so we have to gird up ourselves, you know, and we have to stay in this word and learn this word, continue to stay in this word so it can penetrate our hard hearts, so we can learn what Yahweh is trying to tell us. And that's not easy for us. We've been taught wrong for so long, it ingrained itself in our hearts and our minds and our actions. So we have to really break ourselves down, allow this word to break ourselves down, you know, so we can let this word penetrate, so we can follow this word. And that's not easy. My brother was talking to me before about peace, you know, to guard the peace. And when you try, you be fumbling and messing up left and right because you're trying so hard to figure out how to guard the peace. And most of the time, we figure it out by how we talk to each other, our actions toward each other, you know, that we're not listening. And so next thing you know, it reverberates in your head when you walk away. Did I keep the peace? No, then became a little fight between peace, trying to keep the peace. Oh, you didn't keep the peace, you didn't keep the peace. But then again, did you look in yourself and say, am I really trying to stop this war and try to keep the peace, guard the peace? Because that's what Yahweh's trying to tell us to do. Because what he's saying in this verse right here, it's basically the war starts to in your mind.
Right.
You understand? It affects your spirit because the war starts in your mind. This is what he's trying to conquer. Your mind. When he conquers your mind, he conquers your heart.
Right.
He conquers your will. So this is what we have to fight against. And when that sword cuts both ways, then you realize, oh, I'm error. I made a mistake because my father's looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
I can bypass all these people. I can fool all these people. But you can't fool the Most High.
Right.
Because you still got to be present before him when it's time for your judgment. So how can you fool him when you need Yeshua to be your judge? So this is a humbling verse to me. It's supposed to strip you from your pride.
Right.
You understand? To realize that Yahweh is real. We are liars. Yahweh is the truth. So it just expounds on so much. I just want to bring that point out there. When you point your finger at somebody, you got three fingers pointing right back at you.
Right. And, going back to verse 12 about not wrestling against flesh and blood, but, spiritual wickedness in high places, that goes, like you said, when in a dispute between you and your brother or you and your loved one. And we so busy trying to protect the flesh of, you did this, well, you did that, and not realizing, man, what about the spirit? What about the spirit? We're not focusing on how do we protect the spirit. And the only way to protect the spirit in that manner is to listen to the other person. Make sure you're receiving, like you said. Make sure you're understanding to judge yourself of your own actions to see if you're doing something wrong. And in doing that, that's putting on that spiritual armor of Elohim. Your loins girt about with the truth, the breastplate of righteousness, your feet shod with the preparation of the good news of peace, the shield of faith, which means do the righteousness and then have the faith that you're going to get the result that's going to protect you. All these things, that's what's going to quench the fiery darts that are coming from the wicked. And it's not necessarily the person that you're talking to is the wicked, but that spirit that they may be entertaining or you're entertaining is the wicked. And if you put on that spiritual armor, it doesn't say that it's too late to put it on after the attack came. But if you find, okay, I'm getting hits, if I'm still alive and I'm getting shots and I'm in a boxing ring and I'm getting hit. And I'm like, I don't like getting hit. If you still awake and you still conscious, you can go put that gear on and say, look here, I'm not ready yet. Let me put some armor on because I'm taking these blows. It's the same thing spiritually. You realize you're taking all these spiritual blows. You realize you're taking all these spiritual blows. Pull out of that and say, listen, man, this is a spiritual battle. Let me put on this spiritual whole armor of Elohim because I'm going to need all of this. Because if I just cover the head, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the body. I got the head and the body covered. You're going to step on my foot. You got to cover your whole body. And to do that takes righteousness. Go ahead, verse 18.
Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. And for me, that utterance may be given unto me, that I may open my mouth boldly to make known the mystery of the good news, for which I am an ambassador in bonds, that therein I may speak boldly as I ought to speak, but that you also may know my affairs and how I do. Titius, a beloved brother and a faithful minister in the Master, shall make known to you all things, whom I have sent unto you for the same purpose, that you might know our affairs, and that you might comfort your hearts. Peace be to the brethren and love with faith from Yahweh the Father and the Master Yahshua Mashiach. Grace be with all them that love our Master Yahshua Mashiach in sincerity. Amen.
Amen. All right. Let's move on. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 28. And this is that situation that we're talking about here with Saul, the King Saul, and how he went to try to seek these spirits.
Man went full blown with it, like
I mean, once you got them hooks in your jaw, you decide, hey, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And again, once you are gone, you are dead. We know what happens. The spirit returns unto the Father. You're not sitting around in some kind of consciousness waiting for somebody to conjure you up. But what'll happen is they'll conjure up a spirit, and they'll be like, oh, that has to be that person, because how could that person have known these things? But what are the angels called besides messengers? What are they called?
Spirits.
Spirits, and what else? What do they call them? In Enoch especially. The watchers. They watching you. The eyes of Yahweh are everywhere. These angels watching you, good and bad, to raise accusation against you or raise accusation in your defense. So if these angels are able to watch you, you think they don't know the things that happen in your life? You don't think that somebody who's conjuring up these evil spirits can't channel something that these watchers were watching you and knew? So you think, oh, there's no way that they would have known what happened between me and my wife 15 years ago. It has to be my dead wife, or it has to be my dead father. No, these angels have been here from the beginning. They've watched all this stuff.
Like demons you talking to.
Exactly. But we thinking we believe in that we conjuring up these ancestors, and this is what these other nations believe that they're doing, not understanding that you're channeling evil angels that are leading you to do wickedness. Like cut yourself. What do you think these other nations got this stuff that let me cut my skin and make signs in my face to show what family I'm from? Why don't you just walk in righteousness? Be like, oh, you must be from that Israel family, because them the only ones that walk in righteousness. Yes. Oh, you must be from the kingdom of Yehuda, because they're the only ones wearing fringes right now. Everybody else do. Why you can't do that? That's what our law tells us to do, to separate ourselves. But no, these other nations, they cut in their skin, they cut in their face, shaping their head, looking like a damn alien and all this type of stuff, so that they could. And where do you think they're getting this from? Look, in China, you got these people making their feet look like crab claws and all the, crush the feet. Them evil angels. That is not human nature, is not to disfigure yourself like that. Female circumcision and all kind of weird stuff. Where do you think they're getting that from? These evil angels. And that's why Yahweh said, look, there's a purpose for them to do that. It's to test you if you're going to go after them or you're going to be like me, holy forever. So this is your test. And we were given that warning. They weren't given that warning. The only warning they get is from our nation, because our nation has the book that says, don't do this. You ain't going to find that in Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead ain't going to say, hey, don't go seek the Book of the Dead. Don't go seek dead people. So that's how you know we didn't copy our stuff from them. Because why they book don't say that?
Samuel chapter 28 and verse 15.
No, we're going to start at verse 1.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it came to pass in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for warfare to fight with Yasharal. And Achish said unto David, know you assuredly that you shall go out with me to battle, you and your men. And David said to Achish, surely you shall know what your servant can do. And Achish said unto David, therefore will I make you keeper of my head forever. Now Samuel was dead, and all Yasharal had lamented him and buried him in Ramah, even in his own city. And Saul had put away those that had familiar spirits and the wizards out of the land. And the Philistines gathered themselves together and came and pitched in Shunem. And Saul gathered all Yasharal together, and they pitched in Gilboa. And when Saul saw the host of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired of Yahweh, Yahweh answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by prophets. Then said Saul unto his servants, seek me a woman that has a familiar spirit, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, behold, there is a woman that has a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went, and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, I pray you, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up whom I shall name unto you.
And who you fooling? You the king, for one, with all these warriors around you, protecting you. You head over, shoulders over, height over everybody, like just some other tall man that I don't know with a little mustache on his face. Like you ain't gonna know who that is. Come on, man. Go ahead.
Verse 9. And the woman said unto him, Behold, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off those that have familiar spirits, and the wizards out of the land. Wherefore then laid you a snare for my life, to cause me to die? And Saul swore to her by Yahweh, saying, As Yahweh lives, there shall no punishment happen to you for this thing. Then said the woman, Whom shall I bring up unto you? And he said, Bring me up Samuel. And when the woman saw Samuel, she cried with a loud voice. And the woman spoke to Saul, saying, Why have you deceived me? For you are Saul. And the king said unto her, Be not afraid, for what saw you? And the woman said unto Saul, I saw mighty one ascending out of the earth. And he said unto her, What form is he of? And she said, An old man comes up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel. And he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed himself. And Samuel said to Saul, Why have you disquieted me to bring me up? And Saul answered, I am sore distressed, for the Philistines make war against me, and Elohim is departed from me. And he answers me no more, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called you, that you may make known unto me what I shall do. Then said Samuel, Why then do you ask of me, seeing Yahweh is departed from you, and is become your enemy? And Yahweh has done to him as he spoke by me. For Yahweh has rent the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor, even to Dawid, because you obey not the voice of Yahweh, nor execute his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore Yahweh has done this thing unto you this day.
So Amalek, that's Esau. That's his family. Go ahead.
Moreover, Yahweh will also deliver Yasharal with you into the hand of the Philistines, and tomorrow shall you and your sons be with me. Yahweh also shall deliver the host of Yasharal into the hand of the Philistines. Then Saul fell straightway all along the earth, and was sore afraid because of the words of Samuel. And there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no bread all the day, nor all the night.
All right, we can stop right there. So he seeked after those familiar spirits, and now the angels is telling him, okay, you want to know what time it is? Here you go. But it's leading him into doing, instead of him just doing what he was supposed to do, go enact that war against these other nations that he was supposed to do. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Jeremiah chapter 27. And remember, a familiar spirit can also be deemed as a ventriloquist. Jeremiah chapter 27.
These folks are some expert wizards in witches.
Mm-hmm. They've been dealing with these evil spirits, because imagine if we in righteousness can channel the spirit of Yahweh and do all these mighty good works in the spirit of righteousness with the Holy Spirit and the Ruach HaKodesh, and we can do all these great mighty deeds. Well, we know you can do all this wicked stuff with these evil spirits and evil angels. And which power you think is more powerful? But one spirit requires you to walk in righteousness to receive that kind of power. And the other one, nah, you can do whatever you want. Just pay, put some money in this pot, or go seek some wicked people that don't have no kind of morals or values, and they'll do it for you. Do it at a price.
Jeremiah 27?
Mm-hmm. And here you have the prophet Jeremiah is going to talk about what these spirits are doing. These diviners now they're talking about.
Jeremiah chapter 27 and verse 1. In the beginning of the reign of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Yehudah, came this word unto Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, Thus says Yahweh unto me, Make you bonds and yokes, and put them upon your neck, and send them to the king of Edom, and to the king of Moab, and to the king of the Ammonites, and to the king of Tyrus, and to the king of Zidon, by the hand of the messengers which come to Jerusalem unto Zedekiah king of Yehuda. And command them to say unto their masters, Thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yasharal, Thus shall you say unto your masters, I have made the earth, the man, and the beast that are upon the ground, by my great power and by my outstretched arms, and have given it unto whom it seemed meet unto me. And now have I given all these lands into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and the beasts of the field have I given him also to serve him, and all the nations shall serve him, and his son and his son's son, until the very time of his land come, and when many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of him. And it shall come to pass that the nation and kingdom which shall not serve the same Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon, and that will not put their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, that nation will I punish, says Yahweh, with the sword and with famine and with pestilence, until I have consumed them by his hand. Therefore, hearken not to your prophets, nor to your diviners, nor to your dreamers, nor to your enchanters, nor to your sorcerers who speak unto you, saying, You shall not serve the king of Babylon.
In other words, you are here for punishment. This is your captivity. Don't listen to these people that are speaking to these evil angels. Oh, no, you ain't got to do that. You good. You ain't got to serve Nebuchadnezzar. No, you finna die, because you were here for a specific period of time until that captivity is over with. So you can listen to all these people that are not speaking directly of the word of Yahweh, are not the prophets of Yahweh telling you the truth, that are telling you what you want to hear, and that's going to cause you your death. Manipulation of the spirit. The adversary, the devil, wants to kill you, period. He's not trying to, it's just like, you know, again, not to pick on the homosexual, but to make a point here. The homosexual is not going to reproduce. Two women and two men, men and men are not going to produce a baby. Women and women are not going to produce a baby. The only way they can produce something like them is to turn a regular person into a homosexual, to create that death. It's the same thing with the adversary, the devil. He cannot create life. So all he can do is reproduce death, cause people to die. Go ahead.
Hold on a second. I like the point that you're making there, brother, you know. But also, you know, we can look at this, you know, with that point you just made, is that look at these churches they have out here today. You know, this is basically the same, right? This country right here is a whip to our backsides.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you're not preaching the truth, then why are you all here?
Right.
If you're not dealing with this truth, then you're being shamed. You're being lied to.
Right.
And everything is okay, and you're a bag of chips. No, it ain't work that way. Because Yahweh is still saying right now that he wants his children to come back to him.
Right.
And our children wants to amplify themselves against Yahweh by trying to follow what the Goyim has put down for you to believe in, if you read from. You know,
Right.
they don't realize that this book is our history book.
Right.
This book is telling you to come back to Yahweh. You understand? To do righteousness in his name. But this is why we get ourselves in trouble all the time. So we only want to believe the wrong thing, the itchy hair sermons, and not the truth.
Right.
I mean, listen, my brothers and sisters, is what this really means. So we can come back to the Father and give him his just due, because he is righteous.
Right. And, you know, with our current situation that we're in, I mean, I understand it is very difficult, and it's very humbling to acknowledge that you are captive in a land that's not yours, and to acknowledge that you are under the curses, the generational curses that didn't come by what you physically did. We suffer curses for what we do in our own lives, but we suffer curses for things that we weren't even born yet. It had nothing to do with us. And you're not going to lie to yourself and say, nah, you know, I denounce the curses. I'm not under any curses. That ain't going to change the fact that if you go out there in the street and you act a fool, you're going to get 7 times the punishment of anybody else. That's not going to change that. And it is a self-defense mechanism to make ourselves feel a false sense of safety. But instead of focusing on the things that can reduce the effects of these curses, certain things that we multiply in ourselves, we can focus on that. But at the end of the day, we going to be called niggas and porch monkeys and Afro-American and African-American. We're going to be called all these proverbs, bywords, and all these things regardless. I don't care what you do. They calling Oprah a nigga, and she a billionaire. So you're not going to escape those generational curses. But you can escape some of those curses you put in your own life by not keeping the commandments and by taking the focus off of that and acting like all the power is in your hand. That's like saying that you got power over Yahweh. To say, you know, his prophecies are not true. Go ahead, brother.
Jeremiah chapter 27 and verse 10. For they prophesy a lie unto you to remove you far from your land, and that I should drive you out, and you should perish. But the nations that bring their neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him, those will I let remain still in their own land, says Yahweh, and they shall till it and dwell therein. I spoke also to Zedekiah, king of Yehuda, according to all these words, saying, Bring your necks under the yoke of the king of Babylon and serve him and his people and live. Why will you die, you and your people, by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence, as Yahweh has spoken against the nation that will not serve the king of Babylon? Therefore, hearken not unto the words of the prophet that speak unto you, saying, You shall not serve the king of Babylon, for they prophesy a lie unto you. For I have not sent them, says Yahweh. Yet they prophesy a lie in my name, that I might drive you out, and that you might perish, you and the prophets that prophesy unto you. Also I spoke unto the priests and to all this people, saying, Thus says the word of Yahweh, hearken not to the words of your prophets that prophesy unto you, saying, Behold, the vessels of Yahweh's house shall now shortly be brought again from Babylon, for they prophesy a lie unto you. Hearken not unto them. Serve the king of Babylon and live. Why should this city be laid waste?
So these are obviously not prophets of Yahweh, because how do we distinguish the difference between a prophet of men and a prophet of Yahweh? What's the qualifier? Do we remember?
If what they say come to pass.
Right. If what they say come to pass, then that's a prophet of Yahweh. If what they say does not come to pass, then that is not a prophet to Yahweh. And if they did not receive that prophecy in a vision or a dream, then that's not a prophet. That's what they talk about. Oh, we need to remove our head covers because we're prophesying. No, we not. It says point blank in the book, I will speak to my prophets in a vision or a dream. We sitting here reading King James. That don't make us a prophet. If that was the case, any Gentile off the street can come here and read the book and they're considered a prophet because they read in the prophecy in the book. It don't add up. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 18. But if they be prophets, and if the word of Yahweh be with them, let them now make intercession to Yahweh of hosts, that the vessels which are left in the house of Yahweh and in the house of the king of Yehuda and at Jerusalem go not to Babylon. For thus says Yahweh of hosts concerning the pillars, and concerning the sea, and concerning the bases, and concerning the residue of the vessels that remain in this city, which Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon took not, when he carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Yehuda, from Jerusalem to Babylon, and all the nobles of Yehuda and Jerusalem. Yea, thus says Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Yasharal, concerning the vessels that remain in the house of Yahweh, and in the house of the king of Yehuda and of Jerusalem. They shall be carried to Babylon, and there shall they be until the day that I visit them, says Yahweh. Then will I bring them up and restore them to this place.
So they shall be carried to Babylon, and there they shall be until the day that I visit them, says Yahweh. I will bring them up and restore them to this place. So we know that that physically happened, but we know Babylon comes from Babel, which means confusion. So we are carried into confusion until the day that Yahweh visits us and opens our eyes and then brings us back into New Jerusalem, brings his Holy Spirit back into us where we can now walk according to the commandments and be a holy people. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 8. What is that? Divri Hayamim? 2 Chronicles should be Divri Hayamim, right?
I think so. Let me go check.
I always forget that one.
Divri Hayamim.
Okay, I'm getting better then. That means we read it more than a couple times this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Divri Hayamim. What was that? Would you put on Bet Divri Hayamim?
2 Chronicles, Divri Hayamim, chapter 18. Go ahead and start that from verse 1.
All right. Now Jehoshaphat had riches and honor in abundance and joined affinity with Ahab. And after certain years, he went down to Ahab to Samaria, and Ahab killed sheep and oxen for him in abundance, and for the people that he had with him, and persuaded him to go up with him to Ramoth Gilead.
So, okay, I was about to answer my own question. Go to verse 3.
And Ahab, king of Yasharal, said unto Jehoshaphat, king of Yehuda, will you go with me to Ramoth Gilead? And he answered him, I am as you are, and my people as your people, and we will be with you in the war. And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Yasharal, inquire, I pray you, at the word of Yahweh today. Therefore the king of Yasharal gathered together the prophets, 400 men, and said unto them, shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And they said, go up, for Elohim will deliver it into the king's hand.
All right, so this is what the king is supposed to do. You know, he's supposed to go to the counselors. He's supposed to inquire of Yahweh. Go to the prophets of Yahweh. Is this of your will, Yah? Is this what we're supposed to be doing? You're not supposed to just act and just go do something. So he's doing that. Go ahead. But, yeah, there's the but. Go ahead.
Verse 6, but Jehoshaphat said, is there not a prophet of Yahweh besides that we might inquire of him?
Now, keep in mind, northern Israel, they weren't really trying to keep these commandments. They would make anybody a priest. They would have all these kind of issues. So he's like, okay, yeah, it's all well and nice. This guy over here with these horns on his head or whatever, trying to tell me what I should do. But do we have any prophets of Yahweh in here? Anybody that talk to Yahweh, that Yahweh speak to? Go ahead.
Brother Mikael, would you help Mama find the page? Verse 7.
Hold on. Let me find the page. 2 Chronicles always gives me a tough time trying to find that one. That's one of them books I rarely, it's so historical, you know. I rarely get into that because it's a lot of repetition of other things that are in other books. Was a lot of good information in there. So we're at Divri Hayamim, 2 Chronicles chapter 18, and we're at what, verse 6?
Verse 7.
Verse 7.
And the king of Yasharal said unto Jehoshaphat, there is yet one man by whom we may inquire of Yahweh, but I hate him. For he never prophesied good unto me, but always evil. The same is Micaiah, the son of Imlah. And Jehoshaphat said, let not the king say so.
Okay, this is the problem. If you are not keeping the commandments, and then you talk to a commandment keeper, you're going to hear bad news. You're going to hear, no, that's not righteousness. You're going to hear that's not going to work well for you to go oppress these people or go do this or go do that. That's not going to work out with you. But what people want to do when they don't want to hear the truth, they want to go somewhere where people are going to lie to them. Just like, you know, don't listen to them prophets or Yirmiyah. See, them prophets prophesying lies to you in verse 27, telling you, oh, you're going to be straight. You ain't going to Babylon. Everything going to be cool. No, you're going to serve Babylon because you are profaning the Sabbath day. You are transgressing these laws. This is going to be the judgment. So here's the same thing here. Don't go up because I'm ready to go fight this guy. I don't want to hear about how it's going to work. I got 4 people or 400 prophets over here that tell me, yeah, whatever. Well, King, do you want to fight him? You want to fight him? Yeah. Well, Yahweh told me you're going to win. High five. All right.
I want to hear smooth things.
And if that's what you want to hear, whatever you look for in this book, Yahweh going to let you find it. You want to find that it's okay to go sleep with as many women as you want? You look in this book, you're going to find Judah and other people doing that. You see, Judah slept with a whore. You can do that. That's lawful. Go ahead. Sleep with whores. Oh, you want to find in here, hey, listen, you can just, you tired of your wife, just give her a bill of divorcement, send her on her way. You look in this book, you're going to see that. You're going to have to skip all Yahshua to do that. Or you want to look in this book, you want to say, hey, listen, somebody punch you in your face, punch them right back. An eye for an eye, tooth for tooth is right in here. But you're going to have to skip the end of the book to do that. So it's the same thing. Yahweh, you want to accept lies, Yahweh going to send you teachers to give you lies. You want to be comfortable with your sin. You want to find a place to make you comfortable doing what you want to do as your ransom for sin. Yahweh going to send you one on every corner that you can go to. But if you're looking for this truth, he's going to send somebody to come to you to tell you, bruh, thus says Yahweh in the Torah. That is wrong. And you ain't going to hear what you want to hear.
Verse 8. And the king of Yasharal called for one of his officers and said, fetch quickly Micaiah the son of Imlah. And the king of Yasharal and Jehoshaphat king of Yehuda sat either of them on his throne, clothed in their robes, and they sat in a void place at the entering in of the gate of Samaria, and all the prophets prophesied before them. And Zedekiah the son of Hananiah had made him horns of iron, and said, thus says Yahweh, with these you shall push Syria until they become consumed.
And that's what I was talking about, the horns. You make a hat with some horns or some horns. Yeah, because you know how we are. We got to make a show out of everything like they do in the Sunday churches. Dress up in something and dance and, have somebody, I don't like to talk about people that passed away, but like, what's the pastor? Eddie Long. They got him sitting up on a throne wrapped in Torah. Man, what Torah are you keeping? You ain't even keeping a Sabbath day. But this after you done got accused of raping some boys and you sitting up you got some white man validating you that like to use the name Yeshua. This is what we like. We like the big show and everything instead of just yeah. We learn all this show and all this stuff, and maybe we'd have more viewership or more people, with Israelite gathering if we were putting on a show. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to give you the truth and give you the opportunity to hear the truth and know where you can read it yourself. And then you make the decision, because every man got to seek his own salvation with fear and trembling. Who is like unto Yah? Right.
Verse 11. And all the prophets prophesied so, saying, go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, and Yahweh shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the messenger that went to call Micaiah spoke to him, saying, behold, the words of the prophets declare good to the king with one assent. Let your word, therefore, I pray you, be like one of theirs, and speak you good.
Right.
And Micaiah said, as Yahweh lives, even what my Elohim says, that will I speak.
Look, hey, I'm sorry. You are coming to me, a servant of the Most High, asking for the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth, what thus says Yahweh. If you don't want to hear that, take your behind over there to the other people you can buy with some money. If you come to me, don't come to me and ask me for counsel about anything regarding this word if you don't want to hear what's in the word. Now, you want to ask me what I think about hip hop, or you want an opinion and all that. Hey, that's an opinion. But if you're going to ask any one of us here about this word, we're going to tell you what to the best of our ability. It don't mean we always right. So we might be misunderstanding something, but we're going to give you the best we have according to these scriptures, according to what thus says Yahweh. So this is what a servant is supposed to do. Malachi chapter 2, the priest's mouth, they should seek the law in his mouth. The priest's mouth should speak knowledge. They should seek the law in his mouth. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And when he was come to the king said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? And he said, go you up and prosper, and they shall be delivered into your hand.
So, he said that sarcastic. Oh, yeah. Go, prosper. Yeah. It's going to be delivered in your hand. Go ahead. But I'll be over there when y'all go over there, though. I'll be here. Y'all go over there. I'll be over here. Let me know how it works out. Go ahead.
And the king said to him, how many times shall I adjure you that you say nothing but the truth to me in the name of Yahweh? Then he said, I did see all Yasharal scattered upon the mountains as sheep that have no shepherd. And Yahweh said, These have no master. Let them return, therefore, every man to his house in peace. And the king of Yasharal said to Jehoshaphat, Did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good unto me, but evil? Again he said, Therefore hear the word of Yahweh. I saw Yahweh sitting upon his throne, and all the hosts of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And Yahweh said, Who shall entice Ahab, king of Yasharal, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one spoke, saying after this manner, and another saying after that manner. Then there came out a spirit, and stood before Yahweh, and said, I will entice him.
Interesting.
And Yahweh said unto him, Wherewith?
All right. So this spirit is saying, I will entice him. Right? Go ahead. 21.
Verse 21. And he said, I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And Yahweh said, You shall entice him, and you shall also prevail. Go out and do even so.
All right. So Yahweh didn't necessarily tell him, go out, go lie to these people. Yahweh said, who's going to entice him? There could have been, these angels got any kind of spirit. Angels can entice you to do anything. How did that angel entice, what was his name? The Moabite that was on the donkey. What was his name again? Balak.
Balaam.
Or Balaam, one of them. Who convinced Balak and Balaam? Who convinced him? The angel came over there and had a donkey talk to him and say, bruh, don't do that. Or you had another angel that stood there with a sword. Who'll entice him? They could put a sword on your behind. You don't have to send a lying spirit, but that's what that lying spirit will do. That's what it wanted to do, because obviously it was comfortable with lies. Yep. And this is why you can't just be calling out these spirits, these angels, not knowing what you're going to receive. Because anything you need to know, Yahweh going to send you a prophet, or he's going to have prophecy that's in this book to lead you, or he's going to have commandments to lead your way on what you need to do.
What about that lying spirit that jumped into Cephas?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Cephas not unaware of what was happening to him at the time. He really thought that, you know, what he was saying to the Most High Son, you know, was relevant.
Right.
You know, and he said, you know, we're not going to let you, you know, like, I'm just paraphrasing, you know, go to your death, die, stuff like that, you know. And Yeshua saw the spirit that jumped into him. You know,
And what did he call him? He called him Satan.
Yeah, Satan.
He called him the rock of his church. I rebuke you, Satan.
Rebuke you, Satan.
And Satan means adversary, because you're being adverse to the word. You're not speaking the truth.
Yeah, and you didn't realize that his body was captured by Satan to be used for that second. You know what I mean? But Yeshua saw it, you know? So that's why we have to be very mindful, you know what I mean, of who or what spirit is trying to use us at a certain particular time. So as we go back to keep that armor of Yahweh on us, you know what I mean?
Right.
That we have to be careful of how we're being used at a certain time, especially when we're emotional.
Right. And, you know, people, again, they call themselves Christians but don't study Christ. And they have this image of Christ like he was this, you know, hippie with long hair that was just so nice and floated. And he called his own right-hand man Satan.
Yes.
He never called, I can't remember a time he called the Pharisees Satan.
Nope.
He called them hypocrites and everything like that. But the people that are closer to him, he was harder on them, because he expected more of them. But we want the opposite. We want the people that love us the more. We want them to be nicer to us and more willing to accept transgression from them. No, the people that are closest to you, there's no way you should allow that, because that's not love. It tells you right there in the commandments that you shall not any wise suffer sin to stay on your brother. You must rebuke him in any wise. That don't mean you beat him up, and there's a balance between that. You know, you got comfortability. You don't just be disrespectful to somebody because you know them, but you should expect to be a little bit less tolerant of transgression with people that are close to you, especially if they know that this is what you about. You about this word. That's how he was with Israel. He ain't punishing the other nations the way he punishing us. Why? Because we are closer unto him. He expects more from us. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 22. Now, therefore, behold, Yahweh has put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets, and Yahweh has spoken evil against you. Then Zedekiah the son of Hananiah came near and smote Micaiah upon the cheek, and said, which way went the Spirit of Yahweh from me to speak unto you?
So he got punched. He got punched in the face. You know what I'm saying? So the same thing happened to Yahshua.
That's right.
Got smoked.
That's right.
This is what happens when you speak the truth. People don't like that. They don't want to hear that. They want you to be like them, be a liar like me. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to put my body in the line because I'm not going to use my vessel to be used by the adversary, the devil, a lying spirit. You want to use a lying spirit? I'm going to rebuke that lying spirit in you, but I'm not going to follow you into transgression. I'm going to lead you out of transgression and say, no, I'm not dealing with a lying spirit with you. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 24, and Micaiah said, behold, you shall see on that day when you shall go into an inner chamber to hide yourself. And the king of Yasharal said, take you Micaiah and carry him back to Amon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son, and say, thus says the king, put this fellow in the prison, and feed him with the bread of affliction, and with water of affliction, until I return in peace.
All right, we can stop right there. So this is what the life of a servant of the Most High. It ain't finna be all peaches and cream for you. This is you earning eternity. First of all, it's an honor to be a prophet of the Most High, that Yahweh brings you so close to him that he speak to you directly in a vision or a dream. You mean you don't got to read it in a book? You are being chosen for something. You better utilize that honor, because that's either your blessing or your curse. Same thing with us in his word. Everybody don't see this word and understand the stuff that we read. Even the basic thing that we think is so basic, a lot of the world don't even understand that. You can either be your gift or your curse. It's going to be a curse unto you if you try to run away from it. But it's going to be a blessing into you in your life, because the latter end is going to be way better than the beginning. Let's move on. Let's go to Acts chapter 16. Acts chapter 16, and now you're going to see Saul checking these divination spirits. And this is the apostle Saul we're talking about here, not King Saul from Benjamin. Acts chapter 16, and we're going to start this at verse 13, and we're going to go through verse 23. Acts chapter 16, we're going to start that at verse 13, and we're going to go through verse 23.
And on the Shabbat,
chapter 16.
Starting at verse 13.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at 16. Go ahead.
And on the Shabbat, we went out of the city by a riverside where prayer was wont to be made. And we sat down and spoke unto the women which resorted there. And a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple of the city of Thyatira, which worshipped Elohim, heard us, whose heart Yahweh opened, and she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul. And when she was baptized, and her household, she besought us, saying, if you have judged me to be faithful to Yahweh, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us.
All right. So you're seeing that women get immersed as well. So if you didn't know that, and this is the doctrine, only the man need to get back, either covering for his house. No, women get baptized as well. Because that woman still has to make her covenant with the Most High through Yahshua as well. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel, possessed with the spirit of divination, met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying.
All right, so she was possessed. That's what you are. When you are divining and doing divination, that is being possessed. You're being possessed by another spirit. You are not supposed to have allowed any spirit other than the spirit of Yasharal, the spirit of Yahweh, into your vessel. That's like if this is Brother Mikael's home and he's allowing me in his home or possess his home to take care of his home, and I just let anybody up in here. Hey, You know, Charles Manson, come in, have fun. You know, Donald Trump, hey, come have a seat. You know, whoever. Nah, I got to ask permission to allow anybody to come up in this house. This house don't belong to me, even though I'm in possession of it. It don't belong to me. And it's just like this vessel. This vessel doesn't belong to us. This belongs to Yahweh. It's like an army issue. It's like a police uniform. While you are working, you got that. But when you quit, you got to turn that back in. They give you a little box. Put your badge in there, your gun, everything. Go about your business.
And you're going to talk about, it says soothsaying is foretelling the future to divine. So basically, yeah, you're correct. She is being used by a demon to speak on what they know about people that other demons around are being watched.
Right. And certain things you don't need to know. You don't need to know the day of your death.
No.
Because that might change all the good things you're going to do in here. You may say, F it, I'm going to die in 3 weeks anyways. Might as well, YOLO, have fun. But then now you are carrying on doing this or doing that, or you're affecting other people. Yah's will is done, not your will. If you need to know something, he's going to tell you. He's going to tell a prophet. And if you want to find out something, at the time when we did have prophets, then you go about it the right way. You inquire to the prophets of Yahweh.
It's funny you said that. It's funny you said that about knowing the day about death. I mean, most of us cannot handle that type of information. But if you look at Samuel, you look at Saul, Paul, so forth like that, you realize that Yahweh allowed them to know that their time was coming to an end. So would they utilize their time correctly? I would say they went around to talk to anybody that they may have thought that they injured or they maybe have taken something from or abused in any manner, so they can get their spot, any spot that might be on their garment cleansed. So they made sure that they was squared away before Yahweh tells, okay, now it's time to go to sleep. You understand? Because when you look at their character, that's the type of character we're supposed to have. Because we're supposed to do what Yahweh said do, be obedient to him while he allows us to be alive. And when Yahweh said, well, look, son, daughter, your time is coming to an end. Okay, so how are you going to utilize that whatever time Yahweh is giving you? You're going to go and make sure that you straighten out any business that you think you might have injured somebody by. And you're going to make sure that Yahweh, sees that in your heart that I want to make sure I correct this thing for you. Not just for me, but I'll let them know too, I am so sorry I did this, or I'll repay you for this, so forth like that. So my spots on my garment before my Father can be cleansed as much as he allows me to do that.
Right. And what many of us don't realize, we already in the day of our death. Because the day with Yahweh is 1,000 years. So ain't nobody in here living 1,000 years right now unless you make it to the sabbatical kingdom. So you in the day of your death. So now is the time to make it right with people. Because you don't know when that day is going to come. You don't know if you're going to have a chance to repent. It's mercy and grace that he allows us to continue walking every day because we already dead in our sins. And that mercy and grace is for us to repent and make things right. So when we realize in that moment that evil spirit leaves your body and you realize, man, I'm transgressing, I'm not being expedient, that is the day for you to correct that. You don't know if you're going to have tomorrow to make that right with that person.
Verse 17. The same followed Paul, Saul, and us, and cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High all, which show unto us the way of salvation. And this did she many days. But Saul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command you in the name of Yahshua Mashiach to come out of her. And he came out the same hour. And when her masters saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they caught Saul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers.
Wait a minute. These wicked people here, we gonna put them in jail because they done stopped this woman from transgressing the law. And she was making us money. How wicked. And this is what it's all about. When they putting us in jail, they want to take away us the right to not vaccinate our children, and they want to use that against us in court with custody disputes and all that. Is because they want that money. How dare this father say, I'm not going to poison my children so these pharmaceutical companies can continue making millions? Well, guess what? If that's what you got to go through, that's what you got to do. You got to go to jail for that. That's what you got to do. That's your calling. You can't put your children in the fire so somebody else can make some money. Now, you don't know any better. You don't know any better. I didn't know any better with my younger children. My youngest children, they had their vaccines. But when I found out, we stopped. You repent like any other sin. You find out you're doing something wrong. You can't do what you did about what you did before. You stop that and you repent.
Now they finding out all the poisons in those vaccines.
Right. They been knew that stuff, man. It's just we getting access to it now. And anybody else has questions about those vaccines, go to IsraeliteGathering.com. I have posted on the website the excipient list for every single vaccine there. And I think it's from either 2016 or 2017. I probably need to go find the hidden one they got for 2018. And it lists every single vaccination and plainly tells you what's in each vaccination. And look at the popular ones and read. And when you read what they put in these vaccines, just the name of these things, the things that you know, is enough to be like, oh my God, I'm not putting ammonium in my chop. But when you go through that, look up the element that they're putting in the child, whether it's ammonium or whether it's thimerosal, which is mercury, and look up mercury and just Google the element and see there's no safe dosage of mercury that you can put into a body. And they only put mercury in there so they can preserve the thing, the vaccine, so they can make more money. So they don't care if it kill you, they care about profits. And these doctors are forcing your children to get these things because the pharmaceutical companies are paying them bonuses. The same thing with the flu shot. We got that in Israelite Gathering too on the Facebook page. They're paying thousands of dollar bonuses to these doctors to vaccinate. Why do you think these medical facilities are giving out free flu shots? Don't these flu shots cost money?
Yeah.
So why are they giving you something free? Why are they not giving you free medicine? Free penicillin and free stuff to stop you from getting sick.
Yeah.
They're not giving you that. Ain't no bonus in that. Ain't no money in that.
Verse 20. And brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men, being Yehudim, do exceedingly trouble our city, and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans.
So it's not lawful to remove a possession from a woman? An exorcism? Oh, that's right. You got to go to the Catholic Church and get authorization to exorcise a demon for somebody.
And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. Who, having...
we stop there, verse 23. All right, let's go to Marcus chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. We're going to see how Yahshua deal with these evil spirits too.
Chapter 5?
Yeah. Yahshua deal with them evil spirits too. Get up out of there. And what's interesting, you're going to see what he do with them evil spirits, where he send them. If you know that this is somewhere that the Mashiach will take an evil spirit and put it there, why would you eat that? You're not going to see Yahshua take that and put that in some fish that you can eat with fins and scales. He took a fish and he fed people with it. But these swine, he took that and said, look, there's some unclean animals. Hey, since you're an unclean spirit, I know you want to deal with that. Go be unclean in an unclean vessel. But don't put the unclean spirit in a clean vessel. And that's why if you don't want to deal with those evil spirits, keep the commandments, keep yourself holy. Then them evil spirits won't have ability to dwell in you because you got a hedge of protection around you. By these holy angels, the spirit of righteousness will protect you. The same thing we talked about in Ephesians chapter 6. But if you carry yourself in your vessel unclean, by all kind of acts that you can do to make yourself unclean, all kind of things you can do to make yourself unclean, either by eating or by even the way you treat people, how you act, or how you esteem the Most High on his holy days and things of that nature, make you unclean, and that's just a perfect vessel for unclean spirits to go into.
I mean, brother, we don't read about pigs and so forth, but I'm not talking on that right now. But you can also reiterate on what they said about how they
It's going to eat it or screw it.
Yeah, so so after the pig eats our people, or eat people, what's going to do, slice the pig up and feed it to the people?
It's disgusting. Marcus chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. And we're going to read verses 1 through 20.
And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the
Mark chapter 5. Oh, once again, I'm looking at Matthew. That's twice today. I'm sitting here looking at Matthew. Yeshua, Giannis is like, what book you in? You must got that new standard version over there.
Probably.
Mark chapter 5 and verse 1.
And they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he was come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains.
So the unclean spirit was dwelling in an unclean man, and the unclean man was hanging around an unclean place, a cemetery.
Verse 4. Because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. And when he had saw Yeshua afar off, he ran and worshipped him.
And that's why he's there crying, because he's being tormented by these evil spirits. And he can't do nothing about it. So now he sees the word approaching him. He's running to the word to worship him. And that's what we're supposed to do. When we see that we unclean, we're supposed to come running to this word. Help me. I don't want to be unclean. I don't want to be unholy. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And cried with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with you, Yeshua, you son of the Most High? Oh, I adjure you by all that you torment me not. For he said unto him, Come out of the man, you unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is your name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there was there near unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. And all the devils besought him, saying, Send us into the swine, that we may enter into them.
All right. So what else do you see here going on? This is the country of Gadarenes. This is Gad. This is Hebrews. This is where Hebrews live. And now you have swines feeding. What are swines feeding here by the mountains for? The swines are feeding here by the mountains because they got these swines over here that they're feeding these swines so people can leave and go to the mountains and go buy swine food and buy pigs. Go ahead.
Verse 13.
Oh, wait. Just let you know, legions is about from 3,000 to 6,000 devils.
Wow. 3,000 to 6,000 evil spirits in one man. So you can think one is lust, envy, hatred, lying. It could be all kind of evil. One for every single wicked emotion you can think of, all in one man at one time.
He was in trouble.
Verse 13. And forthwith Yeshua gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. There were about 2,000 and were choked in the sea.
All right, so it was 2,000, at least 2,000 spirits went into these pigs. If you say one went into each pig, if you say that, I don't know, you can't say specifically, but it was a lot. And this is where he's sending them. The evil spirits like, send me into this swine. Send me into this swine, because I want to go from one clean vessel to the next. It feels comfortable in an unclean vessel. It can't jump into a clean vessel because there's protection. It want easy. The adversary don't go look for the hardest battle. He looks for the easy stuff. He likes to pick on the weaker vessel, the less disciplined people. He don't go after the person all the time that has the defense, because now he got to fight with Mikael, the angel of Israel, that protect Israel, or fight with the Holy Spirit, or fight with, whatever angel you got that's supposed to keep you and guide you in the way. He want the easy dude. Just like the robber don't go say, let me go break into Fort Knox and steal, this security car. The security guard's car. He has a fast car. No, he gonna go right out there in an apartment complex where there's no gate. It's dark. It's a bunch of cars. He can go in there and he can steal something. So again, you don't want to deal with these evil spirits. Keep your vessel clean, not only in your food, but in your actions. Specifically how you deal with the poor, the widows, and the fatherless. The people in a condescended state, a descended state. That's how you keep that vessel clean. Go ahead.
Verse 14. And they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. And they came to Yahshua and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion, sitting and clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid.
So they came to him happy. Oh man, we've been trying to get rid of this demon. We've been trying to get rid of all these demons in this man. Great job, Yahshua. High five. No, they were afraid of him. They're afraid of him because they done mess with their money now.
Yep.
Because they selling these pigs for whatever reason, whether they selling them, to eat the garbage, or whether they selling them to eat. Either way, we're not even supposed to have these pigs. We're not supposed to be dealing with pigs. This is not indigenous to us. So they're taking these pigs and they went to the city and the country. So they dealing with the whole section here. And they coming to deal with Yahshua for doing this good deed. Now, if he wouldn't mess with the pigs and sent the spirit into something else that didn't involve commerce, they might have been okay with that, because they were trying to get rid of the evil spirit. But now, because they messing with their commerce and they evil lust for pig flesh, now they're afraid of the word. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And they that saw it told them how it befell to him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. And they began to pray him to depart out of their coasts. And when he was come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil prayed him that he might be with him. Howbeit Yahshua suffered him not, but said unto him, Go home to your friends and tell them how great things the sovereign has done for you, and has had compassion on you. And he departed and began to publish in Decapolis how great things Yahshua had done for him. And all men did marvel.
All right. All men did marvel. So he went and did this great deed, and he went just like we supposed to do. Look, I was unclean with all these evil spirits in me. Yahshua came to me, the word came to me and cast these evil spirits out to me. That's the good news. I want to tell the whole world that you too can get rid of your evil spirits by worshiping this word, coming to this word, and worshiping in spirit and truth. And if you look at that word for devils, the word is in Greek is daimon, or daimon, daimon, which is the English would be demon. Daimon or daemon, G1142. And that is a demon or supernatural spirit of a bad nature, devil. All that is an evil angel. That's it, an evil spirit. Let's go to Luke chapter 11. Luke chapter 11. So just the next book over. The next book over from where we were, Mama. Other way. The other way. The next book past. It's right after Mark. Yes, sir. And we're going to read verses 14 through 26.
Luke chapter 11 and verse 14. And he was casting out a devil, and it was dumb. And it came to pass, when the devil was gone out, the dumb spoke, and the people wondered. But some of them said, He cast out devils through Beelzebub, the chief of the devils. And others, tempting him, sought of him a sign from heaven.
So Beelzebub is what? Lord of the flies?
Yeah.
Baal, Zebub. Lord, Baal, and Elzebub, or Zebub, flies.
Verse 17. But he, knowing their thoughts, said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house falls. If Satan also be divided against himself, how shall his kingdom stand? Because you say that I cast out devils through Beelzebub? And if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your sons cast them out? Therefore shall they be your judges. But if I with the finger of Elohim cast out devils, no doubt the kingdom of Yahweh is come upon you. When a strong man armed keeps his palace, his goods are in peace. But when a stronger than he shall come upon him and overcome him, he takes from him all his armor wherein he trusted, and divides his spoils. He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathers not with me scatters. When the unclean spirit is gone out of a man, he walks through dry places, seeking rest, and finds none. He says, I will return to my house where I came. And when he comes, he finds it swept and garnished.
That house is you, that vessel. We are a temple. So when that unclean spirit is removed out of you, if there is no hedge of protection around you, if you are exercised of that evil that you do, somebody talk to you, but then you don't continue walking in his word, then you lose that hedge of protection, or you step outside of that hedge of protection. And now that evil spirit just going to find its way back to you. But when it finds its way back to you, you're going to see what's going to happen here. Go ahead.
Verse 26. Then goes he and takes to him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first.
All right. So if Most High gave you that grace and that mercy, and he allowed that evil spirit to remove from you, and you find that hey, I don't care, I'm going to do what I want to do. Then Yahweh going to say, all right, well, that's it. Well, fine. I ain't going to give you no hedge of protection. Let anything get a hold of you. Then, even more wicked spirits attach onto you because you took the mercy and grace that the Most High gave you for vain, like it means nothing. Same thing with an immersion. You take a baptism and you're supposed to be cleaning your life, and you say, I don't really care. You're going to continue doing what you're going to do. Even worse spirits are going to come deal with you because you have disrespected the Most High after he's done shown himself to you. Let's go to the conclusion. We're going to go to Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5. It's another 4 books down. 4 books forward from where you were, Mama. All right, and let's start this at verse 16. Galatians chapter 5 and verse 16.
This I say then, walk in the spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the spirit lusts against
The flesh.
For the flesh lusts against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you would.
So that goes hand in hand with what we just read. A house divided. How can Satan be divided against himself? His house is going to fall. So if we don't have one that's in control, it's divided. You got two things going in 2 different directions that are controlling you. It's going to fall because you're not going to have no stability. It's just like you trying to walk and both your legs going that way. You're going to do a split. You ain't going nowhere. They're going to have to work together in the direction you want it to go to. You have something, Elder?
Yeah, the point you're making also goes with the last verse you read. The dealing with those demonic spirits that will lace themselves within a man if his vessel is clean and everything swept clean, and if he does not follow in the teachings of Yah, and does not try to train himself in the word, the truth of Yah, then he's going to be succumb to the world's views and values again.
Right.
His lust of his flesh and eye and pride of life. So when that happens, Satan's minions, his evil angels, they're not the one that's going to be there. No. They're loyal to their master.
Right.
So they're going to have not just one, they're going to work together to make you a worse vessel than you were before.
Right.
So it's hard for you to come back from that. You beat the first
Right.
a demon that possessed you with the power of the Most High. Now, it's saying your vessel is still open, so they got more than one now. So you beat the first one, you may not beat the seventh.
Right, you're going to get some help.
That's right, so you could be worse. That's where you worse than you were before. So, yeah, when they talk about Yeshua just spoke, if Satan's house is divided against him, how his house can stand? His house can't stand. We know point blank that Yahweh shows his house is more powerful than Hassatan's house.
Right.
But yet, that's why he's trying to say right now, no, Satan ain't gonna go against himself.
Right.
And his minions ain't gonna go against him. So we supposed to not go against the Most High. Be his warriors.
Right. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 18. But if you be led of the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, and I have also told you in times past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh.
All right. They that do such things, be led of the Spirit, and you are not under the law. And what they mean by law, you're not under the law of animal sacrifice if you're being led of the Spirit. Now the works of the flesh are manifest as these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, and witchcraft. We're going to start with witchcraft here and look at this definition. It's very interesting. We were just talking about the pharmaceutical companies. You look at the Greek word for witchcraft, it's pharmakeia. How interesting.
That's right.
Pharmakeia, which is G5331 in the Strongs. Pharmakeia, which is from G5332, medication, pharmacy. That is by extension magic, literally or figurative, sorcery, witchcraft. And it's witchcraft because a lot of this medication ain't healing you. It's masking the pain and not solving the problem. So you're enchanted in a spell feeling like, oh, look, I'm healed. Then you walk out there like they do with football players. They put that cortisone in you and they stick that in you. And then oh, I'm good. Coach, put me back in. You run in there and rip tear your whole muscle out your body. That's a spell because you can't believe it. You can't feel what's going on in your body. It's not healing you like natural healing medication like arnica, from the arnica plant that you can rub into your skin and heal your muscle. Now, stick the cortisone in there so I can get money off you right now by selling you the drug and also making money for you to do the thing that you need to do.
What's the number of that?
G5331, pharmakeia. And where we stopped?
We're at 22 right now.
Well, the verse with all the stuff we were just reading.
20.
Okay, so witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife. So even strife and wrath. You mad at somebody, so you giving them the wrath. That means us with our tempers and our anger. You have anger, you're going to bring strife. Sedition, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Yahweh. That means if we're dealing with those things, we got to repent from those things and clear that evil vessel out of us so that we can enter into the kingdom of Elohim. Do we need to look up any of these? Any of these we want to go over the definitions? Anyone specifically?
Let's go up drunkenness, because drunkenness might have a different meaning to what it just.
Oh yeah, there's the spiritual drunkenness as well.
Yeah.
When you caught up in all these different doctrines, we got to study all these different things that are leading us in all these different ways and causing us to be like drunk, where you confused, where you don't know how to keep a commandment anymore because you done read so many different things.
You got,
What's the Strong's word for that, for drunkenness?
3178. Methe.
Ooh, interesting.
Beverly,
METHE.
METHE.
Apparently a primary word, and intoxicant by implication, intoxication, drunkenness.
All right, so this intoxication can be anything. It doesn't have to be alcohol. You can be intoxicated with power.
Yeah.
You can be intoxicated with weird and strange doctrine that got nothing to do with this word. Lust. You can be intoxicated with lust. You can be intoxicated with greed. You can be intoxicated with your food. Any of this stuff. And that's interesting. Methe.
Your method of intoxication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's that one for seditions? What's the word for that?
1370.
And that's decotastea, a derivative of G1364 and G4714, disunion. That is figuratively dissension, division, sedition. So when we put ourselves in between a brother or another brother or a family member or a brother or a sister or a husband or wife, and we cause division and dissension, that's decostea or something like that. What's emulations? What's emulations?
That's 2205.
Zelos. Properly heat, that is zeal, favorable sense, ardor, and an unfavorable one, jealousy, as of a husband, or an enemy, malice, envying, fervent mind, indignation, jealousy, or zeal. So I'm taking from that an overly jealous spirit, whether it's of a husband or maybe be of an enviousness. Any ones you want to look at, Johnson, here?
Nah, I remember going over a lot of these.
Okay. Yeah, because definitely anything talking about you will not inherit the kingdom, you want to look at those.
Yeah.
And make sure that we're focused. That's what this time is for. Is for us to focus on these things and utilize the time that we have to remove these things from our vessel before our time is ended. So that's all we're going to do today. Any last questions or comments before we close in prayer? Arnica is spelled Arnica. Yeah, you spelled it correctly. And they have that at CVS. That's a great gel if you have bruises or if you have muscle injuries. You remember when I had got my arm damn near ripped out the socket when we were, was in an unfavorable position. I might have been a kuka or something. The arm and I didn't, trying to get myself out of it. I didn't tap fast enough. I didn't want to lose the match. And pop, one of the instructors almost popped my arm out. And the Arnica gel, the instructor's like, oh yeah, get the Arnica gel, man. I thought, I was like, surely, my arm was all hanging like, retarded. I'm like, surely I'm going to be out from training for like months. Man, by the next week, I was back training. It was a little sore, don't get me wrong, but I was back training. That thing is miraculous. And you couldn't put any kind of medication in me to have me, that actually heal the muscle, to have me to go back. All right, so let's go ahead and close in prayer. all brothers remove their head coverings, and all sisters pray with their heads covered. And we face the east towards Jerusalem. Abba Father, Yahweh, Elohim, the Olive, Abraham, Yashak, and Yaakov. Covenant Father, Elohim, Yahshua, we thank you, Yahweh, once again for your mercy, Yahweh, for your lessons that you give us on this Shabbat, Yahweh. Not only in our classes, Yahweh, but in our everyday walk, the eyesight, Yahweh, the vision into our own actions that you give us on this day, Yahweh, if we allow ourselves to see the error in our ways, Yahweh. We thank you for the brothers and sisters that you put around us, Yahweh, and we thank you for allowing us to be around our brothers and sisters so that we can sharpen one another as iron sharpens iron, Yahweh, not to break each other down, Yahweh, but to bring each other up, Yahweh, from falls, Yahweh, to protect one another, Yahweh, for we all we got in this world, Yahweh, for we are separated, Yahweh, we are sanctified people. So we're thankful, Yahweh, that you have allowed for that and allowed us to be in a time where we have access to this word, Yahweh, and access to teachers and access to tools and study and a desire to do so, Yahweh. For we know time is coming where they are going to remove these things from us, Yahweh. So we're thankful, Yahweh, of your mercy, your grace, Yahweh, for we do not deserve it, Yahweh. We ask that you continue empowering us throughout the week as we prepare to enter into your Rosh Hashanah, Yahweh, as we close out this week and go into your 12th month, Yahweh, as we look forward to Yah's will heading into your Rosh Hashanah and your new year, Yahweh. So we ask you, we beg you, Yahweh, to continue being patient with us, Yahweh, and give us the strength to be patient with one another, Yahweh, not judging each other, but rebuking each other in love and gently helping each other face the right direction, Yahweh. We ask also a prayer of healing, Yahweh, to those that are injured, that are in sickly state right now, Yahweh. And we ask, Yahweh, not to just heal an individual, Yahweh, but give the individual time to repent from the things that they need to repent in their lives that even brought them in that situation, Yahweh. Not because we are some great people, but because you are merciful, Yahweh. We ask you, Yah, all these things we humbly come before you, and we thank and pray through your holy, humble, anointed Son, Yahshua HaMashiach, in which all praise, majesty, might, and dominion resides here and forevermore. Through you, your majesty, in the name of Yahshua HaMashiach, we thank and pray. Amen.
Amen.
Our food smells good.
Yesterday,
Ooh-wee.
it's cooked yesterday here to see what she really made.